Welcome to the Transformational Storyteller podcast. The stories we tell ourselves and others shape the lives we lead. I'm your host, Dara Lise Lyons. Some of the best stories are told collaboratively, and so I am really excited for today. I have two guests, Zach Medina and Dave Feinman, and they have founded companies together. They are super young, super dynamic and exciting and fun. And I can't wait to hear more about what it's like to work together in a collaborative partnership that has spawned just incredible creativity, inspiration, and innovation. So I'm gonna let them tell you the story of how they met and how they started working together, but I am really jazzed to be talking with these two amazing young men about what they're doing, what they're up to, and how they came to create a partnership that is really taking videos by storm.
So the story of Viral Ideas actually dates back into high school. Dave and I, at 16, both started our own companies. They were in the entertainment world, and Dave was doing teen dances, I was doing Sweet 16s. And there was this one time where one of my DJs bailed out, and he said, "Don't worry, I have this amazing kid named David Feinman." I'm like, oh geez, who is this? I showed up, it was Dave. He did an amazing job at the party, and eventually we started becoming friends through that. And then Dave started the Zombie Run.
So I started the Zombie Run, we needed some extra staffing. Zach was there, and I was like, hey man, Zach was working on it at the time. I was like, hey, you wanna make a couple extra bucks, work at the Zombie Run? He's like, yeah, sure, why not, let's do it. So we traveled around together, did that. Zombie Run ended up selling, and started to get some consulting contracts, and Zach and I started to work on them together.
Yeah, we flew out to San Francisco, and we landed our first ever client. And while we were out there, we're like, after it started going well, why don't we actually just turn this into a business? So towards the end of college, I guess it was?
Yeah, it was I think your last semester in college. I had just gotten out of college. Yep. We're like, hey, let's start a business, and let's turn what we're doing already, and with consulting, package it up, for corporate video production, package and make it an actual business. And the rest is history. Here we are 4.5 years later. I think one of the things we're going to get into a lot today is talking about the importance of a good business partner. And here we are 4.5 years together. We work together. We are roommates, and we pretty much spend every day together, building, what we believe is an unbelievable company. So that's our story. We're excited to share more.
Speaking of collaboration and partnerships, I am a co-worker at Kismet Co-work. I personally work out of the Chestnut Hill location most times, but they also have offices at Spring Arts in Philadelphia and Manayunk, Pennsylvania. And Kismet is an amazing place to work, to get linked up with various people who are doing incredible and innovative things, and to just increase your collaboration and your networking. And so if you are thinking about co-working, I highly suggest that you go to www.kismetcowork.com and look at the amazing things that they're up to. You can come in, you can experiment, you can work for a day in any of their locations and just get a sense of whether or not it's a good fit for you. And if it is, mention this podcast and mention me, Dara Lise, and you will get 15% off your first month as a member. Dave and Zach, thank you so much for being here today. I am beyond excited to talk about you and the amazing things that you're up to, and just the way that you've been able to collaborate and to create through collaboration. I think it's awesome.
Well, we're so excited to be here, and we're so excited to have a little conversation with you.
Yeah. So I watched your viral videos, like, sort of, you've got a video on your homepage that talks a bit about you two and the business partnership that you have. And you describe yourselves as like an old married couple. And I can personally attest to meeting you today that there's something about their vibe, like, where you guys just
We give off that old married couple vibe.
Yes, you do.
Great.
Yeah, you seem very young, both of you are very young, but like you have something about that old married couple energy. So tell me, like, how does your partnership work? How do you guys navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we started this company about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And Dave and I were actually friends prior to that.
Okay.
So we kind of dove into this already knowing each other, but as we started the business, we actually kind of went our own ways, meaning that Dave focused on what he was really good at, and I focused what I'm really good at. And we found out that we have totally different personalities. We both like to be, happy. We're very like up kind of people. But overall, Dave is more of the fast-driven sales side, right? Yeah. And I'm more behind the scenes operations side. So it's a really, really, really great partnership.
Yeah. Well, I noticed your attention to detail, right? Like, so full disclosure, before we even started this podcast, Zach had a water bottle, Dave had like a beaker kind of bottle or whatever, and Zach's like, maybe we want to standardize the glasses, and he's like, looking at the show sense and stuff. Like, I feel like the organization makes so much sense why you'd be great with client relations. And Dave, you're training for an Ironman and like came after having like just done that, right? So like you're going 10,000 miles a minute and Zach's like kind of smooth things out, right?
You nailed it. It's like I'm scarfing down Chipotle right before we have this interview, and Zach's like, "What's in your teeth?" It's kind of like that kind of balance kind of helps a lot in the business, and we'll get more into how like we think that translates later. But I think it's just like that little simple like thing that you notice is kind of in a way what makes the partnership work really well.
Yeah, well, I'm all about, like, I'm a storyteller, like, it's what I do, and I'm always thinking about, like, character, right? And, like, how do you tap into the strength of your character? And it feels like the two of you have really figured out, like, okay, these are my strengths as a character, these are my strengths, and so let me focus on those, and also trust that I'm gonna be in partnership with someone who has different strengths than I do, and trust them to do their thing well. Like...
It's kind of like, Zach and I talk about this all the time, like, right? It's like almost a weekly conversation of ours. And at a baseline, Zach and I both have a fundamental understanding of who we are.
Yeah.
And we're okay with our strengths, we're okay with our weaknesses. And we kind of acknowledge that, and acknowledge that the other person in our business partnership can, help mitigate some of the risks that are associated with, my strengths, my weaknesses, and same on Zach's side. Yeah. And that's kind of what makes the business partnership works so well is, in a lot of ways is because we have that, contrabalance of personalities and contrabalance of strengths and weaknesses.
Well, how the hell did you come to that, like, string? So I'm 35, right? You're 25 and 26, and like, I feel like 25 and 26 is really young to get to a place where you're like, I know who I am and I'm okay with it. So like, and your stories might be different of how you got there, but I want to hear a little bit about how each of you came to that.
I think Dave and I both of us since starting Viral have gone through a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Yeah. And through those things, you really recognize the meaning of life and really like what is most important. And our biggest thing is, if we're gonna do something, let's just go out and do it. If we wanna do it, let's do it together. So we're always talking about where we wanna go in the future, right? And how does that fit in with the path of ultimately what we wanna do? Yeah. And then how do our personalities all fit in with that? And that's, oftentimes back to the partnership side is a lot of people will meet someone at a networking event or something like that, and then all of a sudden we're gonna become business partners. But in reality, it's as much as we joke that we're like an old married couple, getting in business together is like getting married.
It's worse, actually. It's way worse. It's way worse.
Like, you share everything.
Like, there's a 700-page contract that like dictates our partnership, right? Like,
so it's really important not to just be like, oh, we both like business, we should just get in business together. Like, we really got to know each other before we just dove in.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like the the difference between like sleeping with someone you don't know and sleeping with someone that you love, and I'm not, because it's like, oh my God, what did I just get into? Like, and how well do I know this person, So yeah, I feel like that it's important to bring that up is like really think about, are we a good match in this area? We might be a good match as friends. We might be a good match as like whatever training partners for some sort of relay race or something. But it is a more significant partnership in many ways than a marriage, because if this falls apart, your whole life
and other people's lives too.
Yeah.
And what we always tell people is like, Zach and I dated before we got married.
Yes.
So what I mean by that is,
I
see that one-liner just pulled out of the entire podcast.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's your guys' thing is pulling out like little bits.
So let me finish that one-liner before it gets taken way out of context. So we started out as friends, right?
Yeah.
So Zach and I were friends first, and then we started working on projects together, right? So the start of Viral was actually 3 clients run outside of a bit of a formal business partnership. It was like, you take half, I'll take half, right? Yeah. And we made a couple $1,000s together before we started to make hundreds of thousands of dollars together, right? So it's like, let's first make a little bit together and then get to the next level, right? So before real money's at stake, see if we can handle it.
Well, real money is at stake, and also real potential consequences. Like if it doesn't work out and it's $1,000 thing, you guys can still be friends or whatever. If it doesn't work out and you got hundreds of $1,000s on the line, like it's harder to salvage a relationship after that.
And even beside us, right? I often look at the client side, right?
Yeah.
The client shouldn't suffer because of a negative partnership. So, we're in a service-based business. We're producing video, we're helping companies produce their content, right? If Dave and I were to have a scuffle or something behind it, if we weren't a good partnership, they ultimately would suffer. And that's not fair to the client either. So that's why, great, we may lose everything, but what also would the clients lose?
Right.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Well, and it's also not fair to the client. Like, I think the client is really helped by the fact that you do have this good symbiotic relationship, because I feel like, if your strength might not be sales and a client is working with you, you're not going to be able to really help them get to that next level on the sales side. But Dave, because you are so like go, a client might not be served by someone who doesn't have quite the attention to detail that Zach has, right? So like, I feel like on both ends, the client is served by having you have a strong relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to know more about, I know you have these 2 business partnerships together. I want to know more about the companies, because we've like thrown the names of the companies out, but like what are the companies and what do they do?
So Viral Ideas started out doing corporate video production. So basically, we're a corporate video solutions company that helps companies, ranging from SaaS companies, manufacturing businesses, financial advisors. We help them create solutions around their business to drive revenue using video.
Wow.
So that's our real goal with it. It's a white glove service. We probably play more on the mid to high end side with that business. But I would say about 2 years into the business, we started recognizing that companies have mounds and mounds of content, and even content that we've produced for them, that they need to break into, hundreds or dozens of little videos that they need to spread out across the course of a year, right? So we developed Flixation as a way for them to send us their footage and for us to take that same strategy that we use on the corporate solutions level and bring it down to, how can we edit something that's, a 2-minute video or a 1-minute video or a 30-second video for social without breaking the bank. So essentially that's how Flixation was born, as this on-demand platform for utilizing video editing.
So, and do you also work for, because I'm sure some of the people who are watching this, who are listening to this, like maybe part of their story, what they're looking to do, part of why they're interested in this podcast is like they feel like they have a message, they feel like they have something to get out there, and they maybe don't know quite how to do that. Like, do you work with individuals? Maybe not so much through Viral Ideas, but like through Flixation? Do you work on those kinds of projects?
Most of the time for Flixation, we're working, either with an agency or with a company. So occasionally we'll come across like an individual that'll come in, but most of the time it's definitely something that's done through companies and through ventures.
Okay. And what about Viral Ideas? Is that
same
as well?
thing.
Same thing. So you're
thing,
working for like corporations and
some small businesses, but mostly corporations.
What first inspired you to start doing that work?
So I would say Dave and I have always been really passionate about not just the video side. Of course, ever since I can remember, I've been videoing things, and I remember Dave basically blew up his entire zombie run literally with videos.
Yeah, and I want to hear more about the zombie run, so we'll get back to that. But yeah.
So But ultimately, we want to bring what goes on inside a company and showcase that externally. So one of our top things is recruitment videos and culture videos. And we don't go in and we don't sit there and have a script for them to read off of. We want to make it authentic so that we really believe if someone wants to join a company, they should actually know what they're getting into because they're going to spend the next 1, 2, 3, 10 years of their life in this company.
Yes.
So we take that really seriously. So when we're working with these different companies, we'll do a lot like this. We'll literally sit down. Sure, there's a camera there, but we're just going to have a conversation with the CEO, with one of the workers and things like that. And then we pull bits and pieces to formulate the entire story. And what we found interesting too is not only does it help externally because it's so authentic, but it helps internally because you may work on the plant and you may not talk to the person over in the other location, but you see them on video, you hear them talking about the great things the company's done, and it brings everybody together.
Well, and I'll tell you, so before becoming a writer, an actress, a comedy improv performer, a yoga teacher, I worked in finance. And so I worked for a medical education company. I was their second in their finance department. I left that job, got a job working for a hedge fund. I wish I had access to the kinds of videos that you guys produce because I wouldn't have taken that job. If I knew more about the corporate culture, it wasn't a good fit for me. I wasn't a good fit for it either. It didn't work out. And so I wish that I had access to that kind of platform or recruitment video because I would have said oh yeah, I might have the skill set, but this is not the corporate culture for me.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if it's not right for you. It could be right for someone else, right?
Totally.
So that's kind of what a culture video does. It shows, it kind of matches the right employee to your business.
Well, and it really is. I mean, this is a storytelling podcast. It tells the story of the company. It lets people know, oh, yeah. And same thing, as with books, right? I might love murder mysteries. Someone else might hate them. Someone else might like fantasy. I might be oh my God, I can't get into this. So just to be able to really sink your teeth into is this for me? No judgment attached to it, but just is it a good fit?
And also, not only does it help, like I said, seeing if it's a good fit, but it also helps. You ever think about when you're sitting around, for Thanksgiving or the dinner table and people go, well, what do you do, right? It helps those employees to actually put together what their company does. So actually, just watch this. It's a 2-minute piece. And it really makes everybody proud of who they are and who they work for. Right. So that's another thing that we just really get inspired by creating these videos.
Well, and I think stories also solidify, right? The mission statement, the purpose, because it's really easy if I say to you who are you? Tell me about yourself. And it's well, I do this thing, I do this, I don't know who I am really. But if someone has to tell their story and repeatedly tell their story, it kind of there's an energy behind that.
Of course,
power behind that. Yeah. So I very much want to hear about the zombie run, how that got started, and just assume that someone knows nothing about the zombie run because I'm sure some of the people listening and watching are zombie what? But yeah, I want you to kind of tell us about that.
Okay, so I'll tell you the story. So I started with a friend of mine from high school. We were back in high school, and we were both runners, right? So the two of us were the kids that would run around the playground at recess. We did marathons when we were in high school. So I ran my first marathon when I was 16 years old, and always have been into endurance sports and stuff like that. So we were sitting around, we're wouldn't you run faster if you were chased? In a haunted house, right?
Yeah.
So the idea came to be through that. So we got to college and we're why don't we pursue this? So we developed this whole concept for Hollywood Apocalypse, right? So you run through this 5K course and you wear a flag football belt around your waist. And the goal is to get to the finish line without a life being captured or a flag being captured.
God, and the people who are capturing are
dressed like zombies.
And they really got into it.
They really got into it. So we rolled out the concept in 16 cities. We had about 35,000 people do it.
Wow.
Basically a stadium full of people, did it. So all these different cities, and that was it. So then we kind of moved on to other things. So
fun. Well, and you moved on, but the zombie run is still.
I'm not entirely sure. I think there's still zombie runs, but I think the one that we worked on is the company that took it over was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how amazing, right? To have this idea of I'd run faster if I was chased.
It's true though. You absolutely. If someone was chasing after you, would definitely run as fast as you possibly could.
Either that or me. Like I'm super motivated, but I don't like being told what to do. So I feel like if I'd go one of two ways. I'd either run really, really fast to get away from the people, or I'd just be like, fine, just abduct me. Like, yeah.
I'll tell you the other part. So I think everyone in life should do something that's a little uncomfortable, right? So we're just talking over. I think everyone should try to run a marathon, at least once in their life. So the customers we had for the Design Run, it was a lot of times their first 5K. This was what motivated them to do it. And now now in my personal life, I've kind of moved on to training for an Ironman. But I really think that everyone should try to do a little bit of running or try to do a little bit of biking or something that it's at a certain level, it's pretty uncomfortable to run for a long period of time or a fast period of time. But it really does mold your mind more than it molds your body.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think everyone should try to do 5K, 10K, marathon if you can.
Do something that's beyond the limits of what you think is possible for yourself.
Because you'll always go back to that. When I did my marathons, I would always go back to that. When something was hard, you always go back to the moment where you didn't think you could finish the race, and you're this will be easy, whatever.
Well, and I think for me, I've really experienced that on a personal level, having come through an eating disorder, having come through certain, traumas and whatever in my life. It's oh my God, I got through that. I can totally get through, figuring out how to land this new acting gig or figuring out how to finish a book or whatever. The hardest stuff in my life, knock on wood, is behind, is done. And I think that those things, those stretching outside one's comfort zone does give that, that reference point for resilience. Yeah. For sure. So what, speaking of motivation though, what motivates each of you, and it might not be a collective answer, but what motivates you to keep pushing forward on the business front and on the personal front?
I just talked a lot. You can
From a personal side, so we started Viral Ideas 2015, and ironically soon after that, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Wow. So I basically, there was times where I couldn't even go to work, right? Yeah. I was stuck home, couldn't leave.
So I was in a hospital bed.
So eventually, I ended up twice in a hospital bed. And the doctors were just this is not good. We've tried pretty much everything, right? I was even told, we're just gonna cut out and give you a bag. And I'm I'm 22, 23 at the time. This can't be it. And I'll never forget sitting in that bed. I had the tubes and all the other nonsense plugged up to me. I'm if I want to do something in my life, I just want to do it, right? And kind of back to your point is, if I can get through this, I can get through much more. Yes. And knock on wood, unfortunately I'm still in some heavy duty medicine, but I'm much better now. I'm in remission. And if I can overcome that, why can't we overcome stuff in the business? And stuff in the business looks so small when you relate it to something on a personal level that's, to that extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and something that impacts, because health impacts every area of your life, right? You can have a great relationship, but have a bad day with business or whatever. If you're sick, you're just, there is no joy. There's nothing. Yeah. That's amazing that you were able to do that. And people who are listening can't see you, but you do not have a bag. You look great. You're wearing a suit. Good. Yeah, you're totally good.
I mean, there was when I was in the hospital, I'll never forget. Dave came to the hospital. All right, we're gonna get down to work. We didn't stop.
I was dude, just it'll be fine. The business will be great. No, he was come to the hospital. Let's bang out some work. So I came in the hospital. I think Zach
looked awful.
He looked awful, but everyone says you look great. I was dude, you look awful.
Gotta be honest.
He walked in. He's oh god. Even after the hospital visit, I was out of the hospital for 2 days. I'm all right, back to normal. So I would go to clients' offices. The one client opened the door and went what's wrong with you? That's not how you're supposed to answer.
That's not a good greeting. You never want that.
But yeah, I mean, and it's not even something about just me. It's back to the relationship part. We overcame that as a business and personal together. He still had to take up a lot of the stuff that was going on and still go and meet with clients that I wasn't able to do. So if we can overcome things like that, we overcame a lot more since then. So What's stopping us?
But that's why, I mean, I think like the partnership element is really important. The fact that you guys are there for each other. And I mean, yeah, like it's jokey that you're like an old married couple, but also at the same time, like if you're really like in a partnership with someone, you've got to be able to be there for each other and pick up that slack. And also like, you know, understand that it's not just like, you're not just machines, right? Like you're human beings.
Yeah.
Partnership is human. Yeah.
Yeah, deeply. Yeah. Well, and what for you, David? Like, what motivates you?
So one of my mottos is be happy, spread happiness, right? So I think in a lot of ways, you know, when I was younger, I went through very bad bout of depression, right? And I never wanted to get back to that place. And ever since then, I kind of, you know, have designed my lifestyle in a way that just lets me be happy and lets me spread happiness and a smile to other people's faces. And you know, through business and through what I do in life, that's what I want to do, right? I want to be the best, happiest version of myself that just radiates to other people and just allows them to have a smile in their day. And you know, with that simple thing, I think, you know, everything else just becomes easy, right? So like you know, kind of what Zach said, like, you know, we're only here one time. Like I recently, my grandfather recently passed away. He was the closest person in my life, right? And, you know, just kind of going through that, like eventually we're all gonna end up in the same place, right? Like and just kind of like looking around at his funeral, like, and like you just see like all these headstones, right? And it's like, you know, I know it's kind of heavy, but it's just like one day, like that will be me, you know? And like, why not spend the life happy?
Well, it's like, heavy in a way, but also, have you either of you read Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? Okay, well, but all that to say that he talks about like how we need to contemplate our own like eventual deaths, just because, and not from a place of like morbidity, but the fact that, okay, like if you want something in life and you're not going about making that happen, like, why not? You know, because you only have this one chance. Like, don't be stuck in a dead end job that you hate. Don't be stuck. Or
don't lie in bed all day. It's 72 degrees out. Like, I popped out of bed. It's 6:30 this morning. Started my day. It's like why not? Like I'm here. You know, why not do something fun, exciting? Like, start the day.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I think people are like, oh, you know, figuring out how to make myself happy, like that just means like I'm gonna just like eat whatever I want and not take care of myself and get drunk or whatever. But I found that people who really want to be happy and spread happiness, like we actually practice pretty good self-care and like are passionate about the work that we do or whatever, because that's what's more meaningful.
You have to put on your oxygen mask before you put on others. You have to get yourself right. Like, you know, I do a lot of things to just keep myself healthy, both mentally and physically every day.
Yes.
And that allows me to be in a place that just, you know, to kind of, you know, run the business, you know, exist, train for an Ironman, like do everything I want to do, stay confident. So it's like, I think it all comes from a place of like, you know, that one thing, you know, and that practice kind of just allows me to do whatever else I want to do in life and just kind of, you know, live like I'm dying, which we all are.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well, and Zach, you had mentioned, you know, that the two of you are always kind of like looking forward, right? Like they're always looking forward. And David, you mentioned like, you know, doing everything you want to do. So what are some of the things? I mean, I don't want you to give away any like trade secrets or any proprietary information, but just like, are there things that you're looking forward to doing and collaborating on that you can talk about?
I mean, being the best man at Zach's wedding. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm just kidding. He's not getting married. He's very single. But
I would say, you know, our biggest thing that we're always trying to do at Viral Ideas is we understand that, you know, Dave and I just love living life. So really, we want to be able to wake up and go where we want to go, when we want to go, with whoever we want to do. Nothing should really be a restriction, right? You know, if we want to wake up and go down the shore, you know, it's just something simple. It doesn't have to be crazy. we should be able to do that. So ultimately, with viral and Flixation, other ways in which we're doing things, we're always constantly trying to look to create some sort of asset.
Okay.
So that it allows us to work from wherever. Like for example, the wintertime was killing us. So now we're like planning for next year, how exactly do we set up the business so that we can actually travel to where it's warm?
We want to be snowbirds.
Yes.
If we already weren't an old married couple, we want to be the snowbirds.
We're gonna travel wherever it's warm. But being able to, like, I really believe that, work is one thing and work takes up a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
But how do you constantly have an asset that is constantly, revolving all around the clock, and also be able to live the life that you want to live? And how do you combine those two together?
Got it. So if anybody is watching or listening that lives in a warm climate and wants
Let us know.
Reach out to you and invite you to go over there and do some video shoots or whatever production stuff over there, like that would be useful.
Would love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. And what were you going to say, Dave?
No, I was just gonna say, asset creation is really like what I'm all obsessed with, right? Entrepreneurship, we both found something that we're tremendously passionate about. But beyond like the layer above that is, assets equal freedom. If you have an asset, that's how you become free, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, entrepreneurs, a lot of us, me in particular, are obsessed with freedom. You're obsessed with doing and living a life that is truly free of anything and any constraints and any needs in your life. And essentially, like, I don't want to need anything in my life. I just kind of just want to sit back and enjoy it.
Exactly.
So in order to do that, in my opinion, assets are what you need, right?
Yeah, well, and I think the way to create assets is kind of what you both were talking about at the beginning, like filling that value for somebody else, right? Because if you become like incredibly valuable to someone else, I think that's why people who go on maternity leaves and their jobs are still waiting for them when they get back. It's because, even that 9 months or a year or whatever that they were gone, like that company is like, yeah, but we love you and we want you back whenever you're ready. And I feel like if the work that you're doing is super valuable to a company or whatever, an organization, then they will work around your schedule. They'll they're okay with that because you're delivering such important content to them.
Exactly.
It's interesting you bring that up because, not only with creating assets, but we also look at like the product beat, right?
Yeah.
So something with Flixation, for example, is how do you ultimately cannibalize what you're already doing? To your point, your one business may be providing value in the current moment, but maybe looking out 10 years, it may not be as valuable for your client, let's say.
Yeah.
So how do you introduce something, the next evolution of your product, business, service, whatever it may be, to cannibalize your service before something else does, whether it be technology, a competitor, all these other things, so that your next service will actually be beneficial to your clients. So just like Flixation, we saw a need in that market where it's like, all right, people actually are starting to film a lot themselves.
Yeah.
They also have a ton of content, but their bottleneck is the editing. All right, well, why don't we just actually introduce the next evolution of viral ideas, which is Flixation, where they can just send us their footage and we'll handle the editing.
Which is like, my mind is blown right now because I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh, all right, I was trying to figure out like, how do we tie together the transformational element and the storytelling element and the corporation stuff? And I'm like, because what you're doing effectively is you're telling stories, and the medium through which you do that has shifted, but it's the same thing, right?
Yes.
And I think we're experiencing that on so many levels. Like, people love stories, but like people aren't, they might be reading Charles Dickens, but they're probably reading it like in a classroom, right? And now people are getting their stories through like different mediums or ideas or whatever. And it's about, can the marketplace transition with the way that people can filter in and accept ideas and stories, and can you still create an impact, but create it in every ever-changing ways?
Yeah. Well, we used to sit around and draw stories on caves, right? So we always were telling stories.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
So from the time we were cavemen, we would draw like the wolf and don't leave your, make sure you hang your meat up because the wolf's gonna come eat you or whatever. So from the time we were younger, we were storytellers.
Yes.
But the medium always has changed. And it always will,
Yeah.
right? One day we'll be in this virtual reality world and I'll be plugged in here, Zach will be plugged over here, we'll be telling about how, one day we went to a Kismet co-working space and like
right. People will be like, what is space? We all just like sit in our pods.
We sit in a pod, like we're plugged in like the Matrix, what is consciousness? Like whatever. So let's not go there.
No, but I think that's so important, and like those are, I think this like human experiences don't really change, right? They're like
Correct.
a few storylines, we all are going to suffer illness, we're all going to lose people, we're all going to have like births and life events and moments of euphoria and moments of devastation, but the mediums change, the ways that we connect, those things. I really hear a lot of elasticity in what you're talking about.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, kind of like those stories are what make us human.
Yeah.
And like that narrative of like, we all die, that narrative of, we all go through hardships is the same throughout every human. So, we are at the end of the day one species. So so it's like, I don't really know where I was going with this, but like.
No. I'm with you.
But it kind of like plays into the whole story narrative, right? Like people like to tell stories because at the end of the day, they want to realize we're human, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they like to hear them.
Right, absolutely. Well, and so speaking of stories, I believe that every story, every narrative that is like good and memorable and deep and rich has some sort of maybe like a lesson or a motto or, just something that like a takeaway for people. And so I want to ask both of you, if you looking back over your life, if you had to sort of pick either an individual or as a collective, like what story motto would you want people to emerge with? Like what would the lesson that you would want them to take away be?
Yeah, ultimately, if I was to die today, let's say, I would ultimately want to be kind of remembered and seen the story as he went out and did what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, whether you accomplish what you want to accomplish or don't, at least you tried. At least you went out and did it. I'd rather say I went out and did it and failed rather than sitting, 70, 80, 90 years old and going, I really wish I would have started that company at 25.
Yeah.
Like, I never want to sit and just regret the rest of my life.
Right. That's really, I don't want to either. And hopefully, anybody who's listening to this, if they're not really doing what they want, or there is some like inner hunger for something different, they'll listen to this and be inspired to be like, okay, I'm gonna at least take a step in that direction. I'm at least gonna, maybe I might not finish the marathon, but I'm gonna sign up and I'm gonna get farther than I've ever believed possible or what have you.
Sometimes it takes like really big life events,
Yeah.
for something to happen. Not to get like too deep on this, but my cousin, who was like my sister, passed away over an overdose just this past August. And, she was 26, and seeing such a young person pass away in like, out of nowhere, it's like, wow, I want to really live my life, not only for her, but, to ultimately achieve whatever she would be happy for me and, go out and do what I want to do and not sit back and just follow a path that, is.
Well, and that also goes back to like what we were talking about, like that is not, right? Like drugs or whatever, like I think some people feel like, well, that is living in a big way, but it's really not, like doing the things, seizing the life opportunities is like, oh, I'm going to start that business. Oh, I'm going to figure out how to travel. I'm going to like have these amazing, rich experiences that call me to be a higher version of myself, not these experiences that could have devastating consequences.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I would say that obviously, but just the one story I like to say is just kind of like wake yourself up, right? In my own life, you kind of want to. If you walk down the street, a lot of people kind of look like zombies. Like they kind of already look dead.
Yes.
Like inside.
Yes.
and you just walk. You want to be the person that's like smiling and skipping to work. That's who I want to be, right? And that's who I think I am.
Well,
right?
you are. You skipped right on in here today. Yeah.
So that level of energy is like just you could do that for yourself if you just make your life your own. And it doesn't mean you have to start your own business or do anything crazy. You could just, own what you do and just kind of, integrate what you do into your life in a meaningful way. And, just, make your own version of a difference. And that's, and whatever that is for you, that's what it is. What it is for me is, be happy, spread happiness. It could be something totally different from you. And in a job, or you don't have to be an entrepreneur to do it, right? You can do it in a job, you could do it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like if I had a corporation, I would want you guys to come in and like, no, because really I feel like what you're getting at is like the essence of what matters and the essence of what's important. And I feel like that translates into the work that you do. Like I think it's like you are inspirational to be around, and I feel like that has to spill out into your clients and into all of your relationships with each other, but your relationships like in a broader context with the people who come into your lives. So let's say someone is watching or listening and they want to get in contact with you and find out more about the work that you do or hire you for services. Like, how do they do that?
Sure. So from the context of the business, our URLs, flixation.co, viralideas.com. Are the two websites. Feel free to get in touch. There's chat there. There's a million ways to contact us. Don't worry about that.
And we'll put that in the show notes so people can get in contact with you through that.
And then and Zach as well are just active on all the social medias. Yeah. So just Google our names and we'll probably pop up.
Okay. And it's Dave Feinman and Zach Medina and we'll put all of that in the show notes, so that people really can get connected.
Yeah, we're happy to connect, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I actually have never had a business partner before because I'm so type A and controlling, but like this makes me actually want to be like, I have a lot of things that I'm not very strong in, a lot of things that I am, but a lot of things that I'm not. And so this makes me like, it's inspiring. It's really inspiring. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In any new business venture and just in life, there are going to be moments when you get down and you got to get back up. And so to that end, one of our show sponsors is Just Strong, a clothing brand for women, and their symbol, the Just Strong symbol, is the squat, because they say that when you get down, you gotta get back up. And so if you would like to take advantage of harnessing your own strength, go to www.juststrong.com, check out their amazing offerings, and you can get 10% off merely by being a listener and a supporter of this podcast if you enter the coupon code DARALYSE10 at checkout. That's DARALYSE, the number 10 at checkout at www.juststrong.com. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Transformational Storyteller podcast. As always, thanks to our episode sponsors, our production team at Rebel Hill Consulting, and of course, many thanks to you, the listener. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're creating stories that empower you and inspire others.